I want to welcome the members to the September 9th meeting of the Atlantic Avenue Holding Corporation. It is a teleconference, and because it is a teleconference, and not generally the way in which public meetings in New York must be held, there are certain notifications that have to be read into the record to explain the authority under which we are able to do this. As you all know, these are coronavirus COVID-19 related matters. Mike Cusack, our general counsel, will read the required notices into the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, we will note the attendance of the same board members from the DASNY board meeting that just adjourned, and also include the reading of the notice of telephonic and video conference meeting conformed to the Atlantic Avenue Healthcare Property Holding Corporation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks very much. I now will ask Mike to go through the agenda with the board. And Mike, you've got floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The first item on the agenda is an election of officers resolution, very similar to the election of officers resolution that was just passed at the DASNY board to address the retirement of Kim Nadeau as Chief Financial Officer and the appointment today of Kim Ellis as our new Chief Financial Officer and Treasurer, as well as certain other staff changes described in the resolution. If there are no questions on the resolution, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Chairman, to call the vote.
May I have a motion, please, to approve the resolution? This is the resolution electing the officers for the subsidiary.
So moved. Darrell.
And I'll second
thank you for the motion. Jerry, thank you for the second. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, are there any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The second item in the package is a copy of the draft minutes from the May 6, 2020 meeting of the Atlantic Avenue Subsidiary Board, which require review and approval of the board. If there are no questions on the minutes, I will turn it over to you, Mr. Chairman, for a motion to adopt.
Mr. General Counsel, thank you very much. Do I have a motion, please, to adopt the resolution approving the transcript of May 6th?
So moved. This is Beryl again.
Thank you, Beryl. Is there a second?
Second, Joan Sullivan.
Joan, thank you very much. If there is no opposition to the motion and there are no abstentions to the motion, then the motion carries unanimously. The resolution is passed. Mike, the third item.
The final item on the agenda, Mr. Chairman, is the resolution approving the transfer of real property pursuant to special legislation. Before the board today for consideration is a resolution authorizing the transfer of a single tract of real property located at 483 to 503 Herkimer Street in Brooklyn, New York, consistent with special legislation and the approved project plan that is included in the board package for today's presentation. As we first reported at the April 10th, 2019 meeting of the Atlantic Avenue subsidiary, the enacted 2019-2020 state budget included special legislation amending Public Authorities Law Section 1678, Subdivision 25, to provide new subdivisions E and F, authorizing Atlantic Avenue to transfer 4 parcels pursuant to a plan to increase access and quality of healthcare services and preventative care and create affordable housing to transform central Brooklyn. This legislation is included, as I mentioned, in the package before the board. The special legislation supports Governor Cuomo's Vital Brooklyn Policy Initiative, a comprehensive program intended to break down barriers to health and well-being in an area of central Brooklyn with measurably higher rates of obesity, diabetes, and high blood pressure by, among other things, improving access to healthy food sources, quality affordable housing, opportunities for physical activity, and high-quality health care and mental health services. In the materials for our last meeting on May 6, 2020, the president advised the subsidiaries board that while timing and terms of transfers were not yet established, the New York State Division of Homes and Community Renewal, or DHCR, issued 2 Vital Brooklyn requests for proposals, and that staff expected to come before this board with more details while seeking any necessary board approvals. As noted in today's materials, DHCR is concluding its process for the first of these sites, the property I mentioned located at 483 to 503 Herkimer Street, which is currently a surface parking lot across from the Interfaith Hospital campus. DHCR has requested that DASNY bring this proposed conveyance before the board for review and approval at today's meeting. Pursuant to a DHCR-led Vital Brooklyn RFP, DHCR has selected Federation of Organizations for the New York State Mentally Disabled, Inc., or Federation, as the developer of this site. Federation is a not-for-profit provider of health and wellness, senior and children's services, housing, and support services in the New York City and Long Island areas. Further information on Federation is included in the package. As required by the special legislation, DHCR has provided a project plan for the redevelopment of this property to, in the words of the statute, quote, increase access and quality of healthcare services and preventative care and create affordable housing, end quote, in central Brooklyn. As further required by the special legislation, the project plan has been approved by the Commissioner of the HCR, the Department of Health, and the Division of Budget. As a clarification for our record today, the proposal that's before the board is limited to a single tract in central Brooklyn, i.e. the 483 to 503 Herkimer Street tract. Proposals for the 3 remaining tracts referenced in the special statute will be brought before this board separately following DHCR's review and approval process, which is ongoing. By letter dated August 31st, 2020, the DHCR Commissioner has provided direction to Atlantic Avenue to proceed in accordance with the project plan and all requirements in the special legislation. Staff is advised that the timing of this request is fairly critical to meet the proposed financing timetable for the project, which includes a DHCR HFA bond offering that is expected to price in early to mid-October. In other words, before the next DASNY board meeting cycle in October. Specifically, the Housing Finance Agency, or HFA, approved the bond financing for this project last week on September 3rd, 2020, and the parties are moving forward with the mentioned bond sale. Both the real property and bond financing transactions are expected to close at the end of October. Turning to the approved project plan, the plan includes an approximately 8-story structure and a number of additional features that Federation will construct and provide, including without limitation, and I'll just list off a few of the key features in the plan. Approximately 121 affordable housing units that will be focused on senior care, which is defined as seniors earning in the 30%, 40%, 50%, 60%, and 80% of the area median income, with approximately 57 of those units set aside for frail and elderly seniors who will receive on-site supportive services. Second feature, on-site services to help residents maintain physical and emotional health, participate in treatment and rehabilitation services, assist with educational and employment goals, sustain healthy relationships, and overall improve the quality of life of the residents. Third feature is an approximately 6,000 square feet area of community facility space, which is designated for a primary care clinic to be operated as part of the One Brooklyn Health System's ambulatory health care network by the Bedford-Stuyvesant Family Health Center, FQHC. Next feature, approximately 700 square feet of ground floor community space for a food access assistance program. Open spaces, wellness spaces and services, green spaces, and social and recreational activities. And finally, approximately 90 parking spaces for interfaith staff to use will be provided in an underground garage. A note for our record, it is anticipated that the construction of the FQHC portion of this project will be funded in part through the Healthcare Facility Transformation Program Kings County project, which is the $700 million capital grant program administered jointly by the Department of Health and DASNY pursuant to Public Health Law Section 2825A. And in that comment, I'm focusing on improving the space itself for use as a clinic. Seeker and other regulatory review has been conducted by DASNY's Office of Environmental Affairs, or OEA, as staff to Atlantic Avenue. OEA staff have determined that the proposed transfer is an action that will not have any significant adverse effects or impacts on the environment. And that review includes a similar finding that the proposed transfer will not have any adverse impacts on cultural or historical resources located in or eligible for inclusion on the state or national registers of historic places. Additionally, OEA staff has determined that the project will be consistent with the criteria and objectives in the State Smart Growth Public Infrastructure Policy Act. Staff has also reached concurrence with external bond and tax counsel from Squire Sanders LLP that the project plan will not impair the tax-exempt status of any outstanding DASNY bonds or other obligations because in this particular instance, no DASNY bond proceeds were used to acquire or improve this parcel, which as noted is currently used as a surface parking lot by interfaith staff. Accordingly, tax counsel will be able to render the opinion required by the special legislation referenced in the materials. Following negotiation of a purchase and sale agreement, it is anticipated that Atlantic Avenue will transfer the Herkimer Street site for nominal consideration subject to Federation's commitments in the project plan. Pursuant to a fairly standard affordable housing, financing, and construction framework described in the approved plan, Federation will assign its interest to a qualified New York not-for-profit Housing Development Fund Company, or HDFC, controlled by Federation. As part of this financing, the project will be subject to a regulatory agreement restricting the use of the residential units for a period of approximately 40 years and the ambulatory care center for a period of approximately 50 years. HFA mortgages will encumber the entire project, include use restrictions similar to those in the regulatory agreement, and have a maturity date no shorter than 30 years. The HFA mortgages and HFA regulatory agreement will be cross-defaulted. DASNY, for its part, has engaged the services of a qualified MWBE law firm with experience in the New York City real estate market, Showman, Updike, Kaufman, and Gerber, LLP, to assist staff in preparing a purchase and sale agreement and other closing documentation effectuating this transfer in a manner that's consistent with the special legislation, the approved project plan, and Federation's commitments thereunder. As noted, the goal is to have all documentation in place for an early October bond pricing, followed by the closings at the end of the month in October. Finally, an important thank you. While DASNY and its Atlantic Avenue subsidiary have no approval authority over the project plan that is included in today's materials and referenced in the statute, Staff wishes to acknowledge and thank colleagues at the New York State Division of Homes and Community Renewal, DOH and DOB, for their cooperation and assistance in preparing a presentation that we hope is informative to this board. Subject to any comments from the board at this time, we recommend that the Atlantic Avenue Board approve the proposed resolution, adopting and approving the actions of staff to date, and authorizing staff, authorized officers, and external counsel to proceed with the closing process for 483 to 503 Herkimer Street, again, consistent with the approved project plan and all requirements in the special legislation. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Michael, thank you very much. You all have had a chance to review the material that was included, certainly in my board book. This is the Vital Brooklyn Housing Project Plan, Interfaith Herkimer Site A, and then the address of the Herkimer Street property. Are there any questions for Mike? I now recall, Mike, that this transaction is for a nominal amount. Is that correct?
That is correct. The legislation contemplates and gives state officials the authority to accept policy offsets in lieu of normal practices, and does not withstand all laws that would ordinarily apply.
Okay. Are there questions for Michael on this proposed transaction? The resolution for it is 2 pages long. It appears almost immediately behind the meeting transcript from the 6th May meeting. There is a document between cover letter from Mike. As I say, it's a 2-page resolution. Michael has just described it in enough detail so that I think we know enough to be able to vote on this. But are there any questions for Mike? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please, to approve the transaction?
So moved. John Johnson.
Thanks, John. Is there a second?
I'll second. It's Beryl.
Beryl, thank you so much. If there is no opposition to the motion, and if there are no abstentions, then I will conclude that the motion carries unanimously and the proposed transaction is approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes the agenda for the Atlantic Avenue meeting today.
Thank you, Michael. Is there any other business to come before the Atlantic Avenue Healthcare Property Holding Corporation's board?
Just a matter of, John Johnson here, just a matter of curiosity, Michael. Once we finish the other disposition of the other property, does the sun set on Atlantic Holding?
The answer, unfortunately, Mr. Johnson, is going to be no. We in the Atlantic Avenue name, we hold title to a couple dozen properties. This may sunset eventually, depending on future steps with the One Brooklyn Health System and their next actions and activities as they move forward with their transformation plan, which is funded in significant part by the grant program that I mentioned. And so as not to get over my skis on what that might entail, I'll defer to Tracy Rowley for anything further. Thank you.
John, it's like the British Empire. The sun never sets on Atlantic Holdings.
And I would echo that, but also, this is Tracy, just, also add, I think that it is, this is a significant investment, by the state, obviously, and, appreciate DASME's cooperation in the transformation process. I can update the board just, briefly on the transformation efforts. It would take too long to go in depth, but the system is making a significant step at this upcoming Public Health and Health Planning Council to actually merge the 3 separate entities, the 3 hospitals, Brookdale, Interfaith, and Kingsbrook, will be merging into the Brookdale entity, which is the surviving entity for the merger. And that is, they already have a common board and common management, but this is viewed by the health department and certainly other state entities as a good another step towards the integration. And we'll be providing a briefing at that September FIPIC meeting on the efforts underway there. And I think that this transfer that we just approved is also a very vital component of the governor's initiative, as it does combine not only the healthcare aspects through the One Brooklyn clinic that will be co-located here, but also, and more importantly, low-income affordable housing for the Bed-Stuy community, which was identified in the Vital Brooklyn Plan as a significant component. So happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, Tracy. Questions for Tracy? Is there any other business to come before this board? There being none, may I have a motion, please, to adjourn the meeting?
See, Atlantic Avenue never dies.
So moved.
Thank you, John. Is there a second? All right. The meeting stands adjourned. Oh, the meeting stands adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, everyone. Great to see everybody today. Be safe.
Thank you.